Hi everybody and welcome to the 10th video in the series TensorFlow Basics with Hemant, and that is myself. In the last video we discussed RNN and LSTM layers. Using these layers we could create neural networks that can solve various types of sequence problems. In this video, that is the 10th video of the series, we will explore a few questions about layers that are used to build neural networks to solve image related problems. So that is image classification, object localization, object detection, object segmentation, and more. So more specifically, we'll talk about a few questions. So first question that we'll explore is why CNNs are better at image classification. The second one, what layers are used most often for image classification, and what does each of these layers do, and what are some of the architectures that are used for object localization, detection, and segmentation. So these architectures uh, build on the core CNN layers that we'll discuss first, and then we'll discuss some of those architectures which are used for object localization, detection, and segmentation. And obviously, as usual, we'll also see some notebooks. So let's get started. So first come first, why convolutional neural networks are required actually? Okay, so image, as you know, is a two-dimensional object, right? So that is, there are a set of pixels in say x and y direction, and images can also have color channels like red, green, blue. Now let's imagine that we are sitting too close to the TV, and we try to see the picture on the TV. So what's going to happen? We'll be able to see only a few pixels, right? And as we go away from the TV, the individual pixels merge into recognizable features of the object that we can interpret in the image, right? So for example, if it is a picture of a cat which is displayed on the monitor, if we move away from the monitor, those individual pixels will merge, and then we'll be able to see the eyes of the cat, nose of the cat, and things like that. And then we'll be able to interpret that picture as a cat or a dog, depending on what we have in the picture, right? So flattening of the image. So for example, if you are using the usual neural network, that is neural networks with a dense layer, since image is a two-dimensional object, or even for that matter three-dimensional object, if we consider the color channels, then we'll have to flatten it, right? So we'll have to make it a one-dimensional vector, and then we'll have to train our network on that particular flattened vector, right? But that is not a good approach because there is a loss of the spatial information in this particular approach. That approach works, but the kind of the accuracy that you will get with that approach will be definitely less if we consider the image as a two-dimensional object. So the role of the convolutional neural network is to reduce the image into a form that is easier to process without losing features. That means we so for example, if this is the two-dimensional image that we are talking about, and this is the the convolutional filter that we are using, then this filter is going to be scanned over this whole image, and we are going to get set of activations which are also kind of abstract high level features of that particular image, which are getting captured into this set of activations, so which are also called as convolved features, right? So what is this filter all about? That is something that we'll see in the next slide. So don't worry about the terminology. The basic concept is actually to reduce the high dimensional image into kind of abstract low level features which we can correlate together to interpret an object into the image, right? So CNN usually consists of different kind of layers. So the first layer is convolutional layer, then there are pooling layers, and then there are fully connected layers which are like dense layers, right? So the final output of the convolutional and the pooling layer we are going to flatten, and then we are going to use the fully connected layers to get some regression or classification outputs out of it. Okay, so let's take a look at how does the convolutional neural network look like. So this is the overall architecture of the convolutional neural network. So for example, we are giving this input which is 28 by 28 grayscale image, so that is why there's only one color channel here, and then we are applying multiple kernels to it. So the multiple filters are going to be applied to the image, and then we actually do the max pooling. Okay, so we apply the convolution and we do the max pooling on it, and then once again we apply the another convolution layers, and once again we can apply the max pooling to it. Okay, and do not worry about if you do not understand max pooling at this point in time very clearly. We are going to be seeing what does it do exactly going further down. Okay, and this is a flattened output which is basically used for doing some kind of classification. So in this particular case we are classifying the digits into 0 to 9. So this is a soft max output that we are getting from the convolutional neural network. So before, as compared to the plain vanilla neural networks, what we have is like repetitive convolution layers, convolution layer and pooling layers, then convolution pooling, and we can repeat it maybe twice, thrice, depending on the data set and the kind of the results that we get. So if you are getting the increase in the accuracy by increasing this set of layers, then we can keep on doing it. Else if it is not going beyond a point, then we can stop there. Okay, so let's try to understand some basic terminology around the convolution layer. So the first layer that we are going to be talking about, the convolution layer. So convolution layers are comprised, they comprise of filters and feature maps, right? So this sliding the filter that you see here, so for example this is a 3 by 3 filter that we are having. So it's like a stencil, we are basically putting some kind of a random uh, pattern into the weights of this particular filter, and then we slide it over the image, and when that particular pattern which is there in the filter matches the pattern in the image, then we are going to get an activation for it. So each step of this particular filter that you see here actually reduces to one particular value in the output. Okay, and what we call that is a feature map actually. So this is a feature map for this particular layer. So we are having a colored image, and we have this red, green and blue channels, and then we are moving these filters, and then we are getting these activations here. So obviously the size of this particular matrix depends on how we move this particular filter. So for example, if we move this filter one step at a time versus two step at a time, then we are going to get a different output on this, right? And we'll come to that in the next slide, the concept of the the strides and the padding. So for example, you see some these zeros around this image, so that is something related to the padding, and the number of these steps it moves at a time, that is a stride, and then the the size, say for example in this particular case we have 3 by 3 kind of a filter. We could have had like 2 by 2 filters or 1 by 1 filter and things like that, right? So feature map is basically an output that is generated by scanning the image pixels with the filters. So filters, as we saw, that they are basically group of kind of neurons, and they are connected to the inputs that we give. And uh, filters will have their own, the connection between the input and the filter neurons, they will have some weights, right? And those are the weights which are going to get adjusted during the training. And when we step through the image using a filter, the output that we get out of this whole process is a feature map. Okay. And as you can see here, the outputs of all these individual images, they're kind of getting merged over here, and then we get a final kind of an activation for this whole process over here. Now, what is the concept of a stride and a padding? So for example, we have this 5 by 5 image here, and as you can see, this particular filter is moving like 2 steps at a time, right? It is moving by 2 pixels at a time. So in this particular case, the stride is 2. So it is moving by 2 pixels at a time, right? And what is the size of the filter? Size of the filter is 3 by 3 in this particular case. Now look at this one. Now this particular filter is moving 1 step at a time. So stride is 1 into this particular case, right? And if we just take this particular image only and move the filter over it, so for example, if we start here and go up till here, then we are going to have a reduced volume, reduced kind of a shape of the feature map. We'll have the original image size will be bigger than the feature map. But if we basically put some kind of dummy kind of pixels around this particular image and then move the filter across it, then the size of the feature map is going to be maintained. So for example, if this is 5 by 5, the feature map could be something like 4 by 4 and things like that. But if we pad it with the dummy kind of pixels around it, then we'll get 5 by 5 activation. So that is the concept of a padding, that is having the dummy kind of pixels around the image, so that the feature map shape remains the same as the original image, right? So this when there is a reduction, that is called as a valid pooling. And when you basically move it with the dummy kind of pixels with the padding, then that is the same padding as we call it. Okay, so that is the concept of the stride and the padding. Now let's get little more practical, and we'll discuss two different convolution layers. So first one is the convolutional 1D layer. So the tf.keras.layers.convolutional 1D, that's the layer that we have. So what is the objective of this particular convolutional layer? So the basic idea behind the convolution layers is to extract the patterns by merging together set of kind of pixels or a set of values in the original data set. Okay, so let's take one example over here. So before we take an example, the input shape of the convolutional 1D layer is a 3D tensor, right? So batch shape plus, so how many samples we have or steps we have, and so batch shape, so we might have like 5 samples which are of 10 steps and 3 values per step, right? So that is the input that we are going to get, and the output shape will be once again a 3D tensor with a shape of batch shape plus new steps. So number of steps are, they can change, right? And that will depend on the size of the filter that we apply. And then the input dimension is going to be replaced by the number of filters or the kernels that we apply to it. Okay, so just keep this in mind. It will not be very clear unless you see some practical examples, and that's exactly what we are going to do it. Now let's say there is an accelerometer, right? So accelerometer has readings in the x direction, y direction, and z direction, And so if you really take the readings of this particular accelerometer like every few seconds, then this is how it is going to look like. So these are the samples which are taken across the time axis, and for each one of the sample we have three values because there is a x acceleration, y acceleration, and z acceleration, right? So how do we represent this whole thing? So let's say we are defining this input shape as one, so batch of one batch of 120 samples and three inputs per sample, right? And we are generating random data of this particular shape. And what we are doing next, we are creating this convolutional 1D layer which is having 32 filters here, and 3 is the filter size here, right? And then there is a activation, and we declare the input shape now, and then we are giving this data as an input. And if we see the output here, what we get, obviously since we gave one batch, we are going to get one batch. Now how did this 120 got reduced to 118? Because the filter size was 3, and if we step this filter through these 120 samples till the end, then we can do it 118 times, right? Because when it is on the 118th kind of a position, then it is 118, 19, and 20. So it covers till 20, 120, right? So that is why we can step only till 118. So that is why the output shape is 118. Okay, and this is the case with the what do you call the valid kind of padding. We are not padding anything in this particular case. Okay, so that is why the filter is able to slide through this 120 samples 118 times. So that is what the output is looking like. Okay, and why this 32? Because number of filters, right? So number of filters, new steps and filters, right? So how many filters we applied? 32. So 32 different times we applied this particular filter. And just to keep the things in the perspective, every time we have a new filter applied, it will have different weights associated with that particular filter. Okay, so that's about convolutional 1D filter. Okay, now let's also take an example of a convolutional 2D filter. Now in this particular case, we have an image which is say red color channel and green color channel, and we are applying like three filters. So for each of the filter we are going to get a set of activations here depending on the, so here is a 2x2 filter that we have, so we'll get activations here. So if you have like 9 pixels here, and if you have 2x2 filter, then this will be like one activation, then this will be the next activation, this will be the third activation, this will be the fourth activation. So that is why this shape is 2x2 of the activations also. And those individual color channels, they are going to be kind of merged, and we get like three outputs, because in this particular case we have configured that network to output three channels. That is why we could have output, we could also output one channel also. In that particular case we'll get only one output, right? So coming to the number of the parameters or trainable parameters that this particular configuration will have is input. So input is this actually 9, and then filter size is 2x2 in this particular case, multiplied by output, which is 1 to 3 in this case, plus output. So that is like these three biases that we are going to, those will be the total number of trainable parameters in this particular case. Okay, so what we are doing, we are taking an image, and actually we are trying to extract the patterns from these images, and we are applying the filters to different color channels, and then we can combine the outputs from the corresponding color channels. Okay, so this is one of the the code sample that we have. So what's happening here is we have this kernel size of 3 by 3. We are applying like 4 filters, and the input shape is 128 by 128. So 128. So if you see the first, the output of the after the first convolutional layer in this particular case, what we are going to get 126, because if you see filter size is 3 by 3, and if we step it through 128 by 128, we get this 126 by 126, right? And the number of filters which are applied were 4. That is why this final output is 4 into this particular case. And then these number of parameters. So input is 3 by 3, because our kernel size is 3 by 3. So 3 inputs, and because RGB image that we have. So this is 9 into 3, 27 into 4, because we have 4 channels, 4 outputs here, and then the bias. So that is how it calculates to 112 into this particular case. Now coming to the pooling layers, so in this particular case, we saw that these are the activations that we get, and depending on the size and the size of the filter, these activation size is going to change. So once we have this feature map, right? So then what the max pooling is going to do? So in this particular case, what we do is actually we try to reduce it once again, right? So what we do is, if you have a max pooling, we just pick up the maximum value, which is 20 in this particular case, and it will be 30 in this particular case, and it will be 100 in this, 112 in this case, and it will be 37 in this particular case. But if you are doing the average pooling, then we add up and divide by 4 in this particular case, so we get like average pooling. So it's just a way that you reduce the activation, like say 4 activations we are reducing to kind of 1 activation. The whole idea behind this is actually as simple as merging the pixels, as we saw in the case when we were watching a TV and then we moved away, more and more pixels kind of got merged, right? As we saw the whole image, and that is exactly what is happening here as well. Now, based on the convolutional layers, that is convolutional, whether it is 1D, 2D, 3D, and pooling layers, a lot of other architectures are also built in. So if you really see the kind of tasks that we can do with the image, so one of the tasks could be classification, right? So in the classification, what we do is we just try to say whether this image is of a dog or a cat or something else, some other object type. But in the localization, so classification plus localization, what do we do? We try to create a bounding box around an object, and we also have a label. So we have a label here. So given the image, we basically created a label here. We created a label here also, plus a bounding box. Now object detection, the object detection will detect multiple objects. So if there are like 2 puppies, or like tree and something else, they all should be have the bounding boxes created, and we could also have multiple labels corresponding to those bounding boxes, right? Now going further, there's also a concept of a segmentation. So what is being done in this particular case, like each individual pixel is associated with the label, right? So for example, this particular pixel over here, that will be associated with a dog. This particular pixel, all these pixels, they will be associated with the label cat. And not sure, probably this is a duck, so the pixels here, they will be associated with a duck and stuff like that. Okay, so these are the basic tasks that one can do with the image. Now, how do these things are, tasks kind of, what are the architectures which are available to do these tasks? So some of the architectures that are currently state-of-the-art approaches, they are like CNN, then fast RCNN, then faster RCNN. So different kind of performance improvements over this. So these are like region-based CNNs. Okay. So what is this? What is the approach in the region-based CNN? So what they do is actually given an image, they will basically generate multiple regions, in which the algorithm will generate the different regions, and then it will extract the features from those multiple regions, and they will be kind of collected together, and then we can have usual fully connected layers to do the classification, right? Now, as opposed to that, there are other approaches which are you see it only once, and then SSD. These two different approaches, they are more advanced approaches in which in which the image is segmented into multiple smaller areas, and then each of these areas is going to say, what kind of a object it detects, and then there's going to be kind of a collaborative decision as to what those regions basically will have. Okay, so different approaches. The thing is, the architectures of all these networks are complex, and they extensively use the CNN layers, as we discussed earlier. So we are not getting into the detailed architecture of these different type of different architectures which use CNNs, but just to get an idea as to what is there. Um, Good thing is, we can use any of these architectures pretty easily, because TensorFlow Hub will have pre-trained models which are based on these different architectures. So we'll see one of the examples in the notebooks which we are going to run shortly. We'll try to do the object detection using a pre-trained model in the TensorFlow Hub. Okay. Now, before we actually discuss the summary, as usual, we'll go to the notebooks and discuss and run the code actually. Okay. So this is the first notebook, and this particular notebook will discuss the convolutional 1D layer, convolutional 2D layer. We'll discuss max pooling, average pooling. We will also discuss upsampling layer, and we also discuss the convolutional transpose layers also. Just to get an idea, because these are the core layers which you are going to encounter when you start building the networks to do certain image task that we discussed, and that is why the understanding of these different layers is extremely important. Okay, so let's import the libraries as usual. Libraries are imported, and the same thing, uh, the concept of input and output we discussed. Now, in order to keep the things a little visible, I have given the input shape as 1, comma 6, comma 3, because that way the input will be of a smaller size, and we'll be able to see a few things very clearly. Okay. So input shape in this particular case is one batch, 6 steps, and 3 inputs per step, right? And then what we are doing, we are generating an input with this particular this particular shape, and then we create a sequential model, and then we have this convolutional 1D layer with having so let me change this to 1 and 1 initially, and then we'll go kind of progressively as to how does it work in a different manner. taking okay, so we have got this output as 1 comma 6 comma 1, right? So how did we get this model dot input, the input that we generated here on dot shape? So if you remember the discussion earlier, it is batch, and since the filter size is 1 here, we are able to step the filter through this input 6 times, right? Because it's a filter size of 1, okay, and we are able to step through the 6 samples 6 times, so that's why this is 6. And the number of filters that we are applying, that is 1, so that is why this is 1. Okay, now let's also try to get the model dot get weights, right? So this is the output shape, right? But the weights will have different shape, and let's try to see what are the shape of the weights, right? Now you see that this is an array of 3 values here, and there's also another value which is a bias value. Okay, this is a bias. Now why this is 3 values here? Because there's only one filter, so one neuron, and 3 inputs are connecting to it, right? So each connection has a separate weight attached to it, right? So that is why the shape is what we see here, right? And let's also try to see the model summary quickly for this particular configuration. So as you can see, batch size is kind of none, and then this is 6 comma 1, because we have applied only one filter. And why the number of parameters are 4? Because 3 weights here plus 1 bias, so 3 plus 1 is 4 into this particular case. Okay, now let's try to change this a little bit. Let me try to make this filter size as 2, and let's see what happens. Everything else is the same. Network is a bit slow right now. So as you can see here, the shape has reduced, right? The size is reduced 1 batch, and 5. This is, instead of 6 we have 5, because since we have the filter size of 2, we can step to the 6 values 5 times. So that's why it's 5, and the number of filters applied is 1. Let's see the change in the weight in this particular case. That will be an interesting thing to see. Now since we have 2 neurons, so our filter is consisting of 2 neurons, and the input is connecting, 3 inputs are connecting to 2 neurons. We have these sets of 3 and 3 values here, 2 sets of the 3 values, and we have a bias here which is a 1 value. Okay, interesting. Now let's change the number of filters and see how does it change. Okay, so we got once again a change in the output here, which is 2 here now, and let's see the weights. Okay, so there you go, we have this one more additional column here. So what we are getting, we have got these 2 sets of 3 inputs, the 3 weights, and these are the for filter 1, filter 2, and then we have got these 2 biases here. So that is how you can kind of play around and see the effect on the weights and the parameters that we have. So for example, let's also calculate the model summary. Now the number of parameters, trainable parameters, is 14, and obviously so this is 6, and this is 6, 12, and 2, 14, right? So that's how you can pretty easily see the number of trainable parameters, or you can also apply the formula that we saw in the presentation, that is input multiplied by filter size multiplied by output plus output, right? So that is a formula that also can be used to calculate the trainable parameters of the convolutional layer, right? So that was pretty much about the 1D convolutional layer. Let's move on to the 2D convolution layer. So once again, the input. Now input, there we had like 3-dimensional input. Now we are going to have 4-dimensional output input. So batch size, that is number of samples, and then the image. So for example, if you have this 7 by 7, there is going to be 7 and 7, and the color channels. So if you have like 3 color channels, we say 3, otherwise we can say 1 or 2, whatever we have. And what will be the output? Batch size is the same. Now instead of these image, actually we are going to get new size for both the dimensions of the image, and then the number of the applied filters that we have. Okay. So now in this particular case, what's going to happen, we have this 3 by 3 filter, and we are having a stride of 1 into this particular case, right? So this is how we are going to get a 5 by 5 output volume. Okay, because we have 3 by 3 filters, so we will be 1 2 3 4 5 till here we can step, and the same in this direction also. So the total number of the output volume is going to be 5 by 5 in this particular case, right? Now if we increase the stride, so in this particular case we stepped our filter by 1 pixel. In this particular case we are stepping it through the by 2 pixels, 1 and 2 pixel, right? So that is why we are going to get a output volume which is 3 by 3. Okay. And the concept of the padding, so if this was the original image, then we can pad it on the edges with the kind of 0 pixels. And if we want to have an output as 32 by 32, then we have to pad it like this, and then if you use this 5 by 5 filter, then we are going to get a 32 by 32 volume, right? So that's the concept of the padding that we have. Okay, so let's take a few more examples of the 2D convolutional layer. So input shape is one batch of 4 by 4 pixels, and one kind of one color channel, so which is a gray image. Okay, so let's try to see, and we have one filter and one, this is our filter size, which is 1, right? So let's go to this. So this is exactly as we expected, because uh, it is filter size is 1, we have one filter, so one filter is that is the output here, and since we can step through 4 by 4 4 times, we are getting this. Okay, and let's try to also get the shape of the weights here, so which is 1 1 1 1. Okay, let's also try to see. Okay, right? So this was a shape, and this is basically the value that we are getting here. Okay. Now as usual, over there, like if I change these to something like 2 filters, and say for example the size of the filter as 2, then let's see how the things are going to change. Okay, so this is the shape of the weights, and let's see what we get here, right? So we got 2 sets, and what is happening here is actually, so to make the things clear, actually let me change this filter size to 1 here, and then we'll be able to kind of see this clearly. So as you can see here, since we have the shape, this is 1, so 1 by 1 filter, so that's why we are getting only 2 values. But now if we make the filter shape as 2 here, and let's keep the filter size as 1 here, and then we'll be able to see some interesting stuff here. Now since we are connecting, like we are connecting one input to two neurons here, rather four neurons, because it's like, since it is a 2D, the size of the filter is 2 by 2, so that's why we have these four values over here, and then we have got only one filter here. Okay, and now if I kind of double up this and one input, so one input is connecting to two neurons, right? And if I change this now, let me also change this to something like 3. What difference does it have? Okay, in the weights, so as you can see, now we have three inputs, right, which are connected to two neurons and two times, because this is 2 into 2, 4. We have four neurons, rather. I'm sorry, it was not two neurons, it was four neurons, right? Because the size when we specify the size as 2 in the convolution in 2D, it is actually 2 by 2, which is 4 neurons. So that is why we get these four filters here, and each of the neuron is connected to the three inputs here, right? So that is why I see these sets of four, and each one of them is like three values over here. And now if I apply the filter here, like two filter, then how the things are going to change. So as you can see, now this is one filter, second filter, and then for each one of these filters we are going to have the bias also. Interesting, right? So this is the setup that you can use. You just generate the random values of a particular shape and create a sequential model, or just use a functional API, and then you can give that input to the convolutional 2D, and then you can get like the model weights, and you can just see how does it change, right? Now what about if you have a gray image and three filters? So gray image and three filters, so that's how it is going to look like. Three filters, three set of activations, three individual biases, three outputs. Now that is the configuration we are using here, right? The kernel size is 2, filters is 3, filters is 3, right? So we are going to have outputs of 3. So let's check this out, right? So output is 3 here, right? And the number of parameters is 15, because as you can see, the three filters 2 by 2 is 12, 12 plus 3 biases, that is 15 into this particular case, right? Now another configuration, RGB image with one filter. So we have only one filter over here, but applied to each of the channels. So 12 plus 1, 13, and then the output is only 1, right? And how does it look like here? So filter output is 1, kernel size is 2, and input is 3 different color channels. We are applying one filter, and the size of the filter is 2. And let's check out. So we are getting 13 trainable parameters here, and the output shape is 1 in the end, right? So I hope this is clear. There's one more example. So this is like uh, 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 the example that we saw in the presentation also. So we have only two channels, color channels here, and we are applying like two filters to it, or rather three filters to it, as I can see here. And then they are kind of combined. So we have the three. So these are the channels in the input. The size of the kernel is 2, filters are 3, and then the output is 3, as you can see. And the parameters is 27. Why 27? Because this is 4 into 6, 24, and plus these 3 biases over here. So that is why there are 27 trainable parameters here. I hope the concept is kind of clear now. Let me just quickly execute this code, and that's exactly what we are going to get. Now coming to the pooling layers. Now pooling layers, as we discussed, actually they reduce the samples. So if you have this original shape of 1 2 3 4 5, and then we are giving it as a batch of like one batch of 5 steps and one uh, input dimension, and then we are going to kind of apply the pooling to it. So this is the original shape and the vector that we have, and now we are applying the average pooling to it, and the pool size is 1. So we are going to step through in the the steps of 2 here, or there are 2 neurons in the filter, and then we are going to step through by stride of 1. Okay, so let's see what we are getting here. So 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, like we are so if you see here 1 and 2, that is being reduced to 1.5 here, and then 2 and 3 is reduced to 2.5, 3 and 4 is reduced to 3.5, because we are applying the average pooling here, right? If you had applied something like max pooling, we'll get a different result here. So this was 1D pooling, average pooling 1D. Okay, because we are pooling in like one axis in this particular case. But what if we had two dimensional? So if we had a array like this, something like an image, so once again we are going to reshape into the one batch of 3 by 3 pixels with one color channel, and so this is how the array is going to look like, one batch of 3 into 3, so 3 into 3 such metrics here. Now what if we apply the max pooling? Let's see, uh, if we are applying the max pooling here, 2D max pooling, then this is the output that we are getting, 5 6 8 9. Why we are getting 5 6 8 9? Because when we are stepping through this, so for this we are getting 5, for this 4 we are getting 6, for this we are getting 8, and for these 4 we are getting 9. That is the max pooling. This is the output of the max pooling that we have. Okay, now here we are just trying to see how we can combine these two, convolutional 1D and average pooling D, and we'll try to see how does the model summary look like here. Now if you see the model summary, this was a shape like 6 by 5 here, which got reduced to 6 by 1 because we had one filter, and then since we applied the average pooling here, the volume got kind of 50% reduced in this particular case. Okay, so that is how it works in essence. Now the same thing for the 2D. So we have one filter, so we started with a shape of 4 into 4 into 1, which got reduced into 3 by 3 because we have the filter size of 2 here, and then that got further reduced because of the average pooling into 2 by 2 into 1. Okay, now there's another type of layer which is very helpful when we are talking on the generative networks, or GANs as we call them. Now in the GANs, what happens is actually we kind of start with a noise, and we are trying to generate an image out of it, right? So initially what happens is we generate a smaller image, and then we scale it up in terms of the pixels, right? And that is where this up sampling is pretty much useful. So we are taking this input as once again image of say pixel value of 1 2 3 4, and then we are reshaping it as a batch of one batch of 2 by 2 pixels and one color channel, that is gray, and then we are trying to upsample it by 2 by 2, and let's see what we get out of this whole thing, right? So interesting thing to notice here is the final output shape, right? Now we had an input of 2 by 2 and which got converted into 4 by 4, and if you see the 1 2 3 4, that's what is getting kind of, these are the repeated values, right? So it is upsampling, and there are no trainable parameters because it's just a upsampling operation. there is no convolutional applied here, or filters applied here. So that's why you will see no trainable parameters here, and the input shape is going to be kind of scaled up by the factor that we specify when we do this upsampling 2D. Okay. Now, if you want to apply the convolution while we are doing the upsampling, then we can use this convolutional 2D transpose, and that's what we have. That's what we have here. So we have these input same as here, but then we are also applying the weights here. Actually, the weights are going to be initialized in this particular case. So you'll see that there are trainable parameters in this particular case, and then we are trying to generate an image by giving an input, and this is what we get actually. So some of these values are kind of being generated as 0. So upsampling and convolutional 2D transpose, the difference is the convolutional 2D transpose is going to have trainable parameters, and it is going to have like it will upsample, and then it will also do the it will generate a feature map by applying the convolutions to it. Okay. So that was pretty much about the layers that we wanted to discuss. Now let's go to another notebook, and we will try to see how we can use all these different layers to do something practical, right? So what we'll try to do is actually we'll try to classify the images into the Cypher 10 database. So let's import the libraries quickly. And okay, so manage session, so we'll have to kill some sessions here. So that was not the case with the Google Collabority earlier, but I think now they are restricting the number of the sessions. So we are going to be downloading this dataset. So we are using the datasets API. So you can see we had imported datasets from Keras. So we have got our dataset loaded. Now we'll just quickly check the images with different labels, and we'll try to plot them. There we go. So we have these images, and these are the the labels are below the images. Now this is where the actual neural network is built. So what we are doing is actually we are using the sequential API, or the sequential model, and then we are repeating the convolutional layer and the max pooling layer and a convolutional layer. So this is the network that we are building. So in the first case we have 32 filters, then we have 64 and 64 filters, and the filter size is 3 by 3 in this particular case, right? Now we know that the images are like 32 pixel by 32 pixel. So let's see and try to print the model summary. The input shape is 32 by 32 into 3 color channels. Now since we are applying 3 by 3 filter, we are getting 30 into 30 and 32 channels, 32 filters that we have, and then we have 64 because we have 64 here, and this is reduced to half by applying the max pooling layer. And now we had this as an input to the second convolutional layer, which is of having 64 filters. So that's why the output is 64, and since we had filter size of 3 by 3, it reduced to 13 into 13. And then we have another convolution layer which is of the 64 filter, and once again the volume reduced from 13 to 6, right? So that's what the network that we have. Now what we are going to do is we have kind of partially built this particular model so far. We have not added the fully connected layers, right? But before we add the fully connected layers, we have to flatten the output of the last convolution layer. So we are flattening it, and then we are adding the dense layer. Two dense layers we are adding, and one with the softmax activation. Okay, so that is what we added, and then we can do the model summary to see what it is. So from here, like, flattened output, so that will be 4 into 4 into 64, 1024, and then 64 as an output, 64 neurons here, and then 10 neurons here. Okay, so let's compile this particular model. And since we have a categorical, because we have 10 different or rather uh, more number of labels, we are using the sparse categorical cross entropy here, and we are going to be fitting the model. So this will take a little bit of time, so I'm going to pause the video. So the training is done, and then we can plot the history because we have captured this into the history, so we can go and plot it. So once this is done, this is going to execute. So this is the graph of the so this is the accuracy, and this is the validation accuracy that we have. So validation accuracy, as expected, kind of flattened, and the training accuracy still kept on going, and then we'll just check the test accuracy also. Okay, so we are able to get point like about 70%, 71% kind of accuracy. Okay, so obviously we can experiment adding more convolution layers and playing with the filters, and we can try to see how does it impact the accuracy of the model, right? Now coming to the last notebook, what we are going to do here is actually we'll try to the object detection, and for that we'll use a pre-trained model from the TensorFlow hub. Okay, so let's quickly import the libraries. So let's terminate the earlier session as done, and let's import the libraries. So we are also going to basically have some functions for displaying the image and downloading and resizing the images. So they will be used for like the prediction purposes. So we are just going to define those functions here. We'll also have a function for drawing the bounding boxes. So in the predictions, we are going to get the coordinates where the bounding boxes have to be drawn, but then on the image it will have to be drawn using a Python function actually. So this is what that function is, and then these are some of the supporting functions that we have. Okay, so we are trying to display the label using all this. Okay, so let's do this quickly. So that part is done. Now the core part is actually to get the model from the TensorFlow hub, and for that we need an image URL. So this is the image URL that we have. This is the image URL, and that we are going to use for testing actually. This is the model handle. This is the URL of the model on the TensorFlow hub, and this particular model is faster or CNN, region based CNN, and it is trained on the Inception net v2. Okay, so let's get that particular model. So we are going to get this model, and then we are going to create a object detector out of it. So model handle is given, and we say hub.load. Okay, so there's some more functions for loading the image and running the detect. So we are running the detector. So this is a run detector function which is going to get the image, and then we are going to get a result by running this detector on the converted image, and then we are also going to time it, and then we are going to display the result actually. So whatever items or the objects that we get in the result over here, we are going to be uh, extracting the keys and values out of it, and then we will be calling the draw boxes with this particular result over here. Okay, so let me just load this, and then we are going to run. Downloaded image path is not defined. So I had just forgotten to execute the path actually. So as you can see, we got the bounding boxes around the object. So, this is an object like tree is being detected here with a 65% of probability. Then we have chair, and then we have table. So this is how this object detection output is going to look like. And then we can try with a few more images if we actually wanted to. So I'm just defining few more image URLs. We'll try it with one more URL. So it's downloading the image, and then it is going to run the detector on top of it. So you see, I mean, the beetles have been kind of detected into this particular image, and they have been detected with a fair amount of accuracy as well, right? So that is how we can run the object detection with a minimal effort. So we just have to download a particular model from the TensorFlow hub, and then we can just use it by passing an image to it, right? So that was pretty much all that we had for this particular session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the summary of this particular session very quickly, and then we'll wrap up the session. So what we discussed in the session 10, so we discussed why CNN is required. So we saw that we wanted to retain the spatial information, and then we also saw how CNN is built using convolutional. So we saw 1D, 2D convolutional layers, and then we talked about pooling, which is like average pooling, max pooling, min pooling, and all. And then we saw how we flatten the output and use the dense layers on top of it. And then we saw the concept of the filters and the kernels and the strides and the padding. So filters are nothing but a group of pixels, and those uh, group of neurons rather, and those neurons are connected to the input, and they have weights associated with them. Then we also have the concept of the stride and the padding, and then we discuss the convolutional 1D and 2D layers, average pooling, max pooling, min pooling. Then we also ran through the image classification. So we can build a neural network having repetition of convolution layers and the pooling layers, and then we flatten the output, and then we can use the dense layers. And we also talked about the flavors of the object recognition. So recognition includes kind of classification, then the localization, detection, segmentation. So that is all like kind of at a higher level called as object recognition. And then what type of neural networks are available for those kind of tasks like object localization, detection, and segmentation. So the concept of the R CNN, YOLO, SSD, all that, right? So that is all that we have for today's session. So thank you so much for listening to the video. If you have any comments, please post those on the YouTube or on the LinkedIn, and I'll see you in the next session very soon. Bye bye.